All right, let's dive into the world of Moto Guzzi. Specifically, their latest creation, the V100 Mandello. You sent over a fantastic article. It's packed with details about this bike, everything from its specs and features to how it stacks up against the competition. So let's explore what makes this machine tick.
Well, you know what I find really intriguing about the V100 Mandello?
What's up?
It's how Moto Guzzi has really taken a bold step by incorporating adaptive aerodynamics. This is the first time we're seeing this tech on a production motorcycle, and it really speaks to their ambition.
Yeah, the automatically adjusting winglets are definitely eye-catching. But beyond the cool factor, I'm curious about how they actually impact the riding experience.
Well, imagine you're cruising down the highway, picking up speed. As you hit a certain threshold, those winglets deploy, and it changes the bike's aerodynamic profile. This creates downforce, which improves stability, especially at higher speeds. It's a similar concept to what you see in race cars and airplanes. But for motorcycles, it's pretty groundbreaking.
So I'm picturing myself leaning into a corner at speed, feeling that extra stability. Sounds like it could really boost confidence, especially on long rides.
Absolutely, and it's not just about performance. Those winglets also help reduce wind resistance, which can make a big difference in rider comfort, especially on those long hauls. You're going to experience less buffeting and fatigue, allowing you to enjoy the ride for longer.
Okay, so we've got adaptive aerodynamics, making the ride smoother and more stable. But the tech doesn't stop there, right? This bike is loaded with a whole suite of electronic rider aids, multiple riding modes, traction control, cornering ABS. And then there's the Erlin Smart EC 2.0 semi-active suspension. Break that down for us. What makes this system so special?
Well, it's not just any semi-active suspension. It's a very sophisticated system. It's constantly monitoring the road conditions and your riding style. It makes adjustments on the fly to optimize both comfort and performance. Think of it as having an intelligent suspension. It adapts to every bump, dip, and curve in the road.
So whether I'm carving through twisty back roads or cruising down a smooth highway, this suspension is working to keep me glued to the road.
Precisely. Now, another interesting choice Moto Guzzi has made with this bike is opting for shaft drive instead of a chain. It's a departure from their usual approach, and it has some interesting implications for the riding experience.
Yeah, I know chain drives need more frequent maintenance, so shaft drive seems like a plus for,
Yeah.
those who prioritize convenience. But how does it affect the actual feel of the ride? Does it take away from that connected to the road feeling some riders crave?
That's the trade-off. While shaft drive is incredibly reliable and low maintenance, it can sometimes feel a bit less direct. Compared to a chain drive, you might not get that same level of feedback from the rear wheel, that sense of immediacy.
Interesting. So it sounds like Moto Guzzi is prioritizing the touring aspect of this bike, emphasizing comfort and long-distance capability over that raw, connected feel.
I think you're spot on. They're aiming for a smooth, refined ride, and shaft drive certainly contributes to that. Now, speaking of comparisons, let's see how the V100 Mandello stacks up against its rivals. Your article provided a great table, comparing it to some key competitors.
Right, and instead of just rattling off numbers, let's bring this comparison to life. For example, while the Mandello might have slightly less horsepower than the BMW R1250 RS,
It boasts that unique adaptive aerodynamic system, which could potentially give it a real-world advantage in terms of high-speed stability and rider comfort. The BMW relies on more traditional aerodynamics.
and while the Ducati Multistrada V2 might be lighter on its feet.
The Mandello's sophisticated semi-active suspension system might give it a smoother, more controlled ride, especially on those less-than-perfect roads you often encounter on long tours. Ducati's suspension system, while excellent, isn't quite as advanced.
Okay, so we've established that this bike has brains, brawn, and a focus on touring. But what about beauty? Does the V100 Mandello live up to Moto Guzzi's reputation for stylish design? I'm looking at these pictures, that sculpted fuel tank, the exposed V-twin engine, that aggressive stance. It certainly has presence.
It's a striking machine, no doubt. Well, I'm drawn to that angular, modern aesthetic, especially the way they've integrated the winglet seamlessly into the design. It's not just an afterthought. It's a core part of the bike's visual language.
And they've offered some interesting color options. That green one especially catches my eye. It feels like a bold choice for Moto Guzzi, a departure from their more traditional color palettes.
I agree. It suggests they're not afraid to take risks and appeal to a wider range of riders. This isn't your grandfather's Moto Guzzi, even though it pays homage to their heritage.
So we've covered a lot of ground, from cutting-edge tech to Italian design flair, but no bike is perfect, right? Let's dive into some of the advantages and drawbacks of the V100 Mandello. We'll start with the positives, and I think it's safe to say that the styling is a major plus. But what else stands out to you?
Well, the adaptive aerodynamics are clearly a game changer. It's not just about looking cool. It has tangible benefits for the rider, improving comfort, stability, and even fuel efficiency at higher speeds. It's a feature that could become a standard in the sport touring category.
And for those long-distance riders, the shaft drive seems like a huge win. Less maintenance means more time on the open road, right?
Exactly. And the V100 Mandello seems purpose-built for touring excellence. The comfortable riding position, the decent-sized fuel tank, the comprehensive suite of electronic rider aids. It's all geared towards making those long rides enjoyable and effortless.
Sounds like a dream machine for those who crave adventure. But dreams can get expensive. And the V100 Mandello definitely comes with a premium price tag.
It does. The starting price of $17,490 puts it in the upper echelon of the sport touring segment. It's important to consider whether the features and performance justify the cost for you. Motorcycle pricing is a complex landscape, and there are always compromises to consider.
And another factor that might give some potential buyers pause is the limited dealer network, especially in the US. It's something to think about if you're considering this bike.
Absolutely. Moto Guzzi dealerships aren't as ubiquitous as some of the bigger brands. So that means longer trips for service, potential delays for parts, and maybe even fewer options for test rides.
It's a practical consideration that shouldn't be overlooked. And finally, we need to address the elephant in the room, or in this case, the weight on the scales. The V100 Mandello is a bit hefty, isn't it?
It tips the scales at 233 kilograms wet. That's not unusual for a fully loaded touring bike. And that weight contributes to stability at speed. But it can make the bike feel less agile in tight corners or at low speeds.
So for riders who are used to lighter, more nimble machines, this might take some adjusting to...
Definitely. It's all about finding the right bike for your riding style and needs. And weight is a key factor in that equation.
All right. Before we wrap up part one of this deep dive, let's take a quick detour and address some of those FAQs you sent along. For example, I know some folks are wondering, how fast can this thing go?
Well, the V100 Mandello has an estimated top speed of 135 miles per hour. But remember, folks, we always advocate for safe and responsible riding.
Wise words. We'll be back in a flash with more insights on the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. Stay tuned.
And while we're on the topic of speed, I imagine folks are curious about cruise control on this bike, especially for touring. It's a feature many riders look for.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're right. That's a great point. It does indeed have cruise control, which is perfect for those long highway stretches. But from the information you sent over, it doesn't look like it has adaptive cruise control. So no robot riders just yet.
Right. No fully autonomous riding experience on this model. Maybe something for Moto Guzzi to consider down the line. But for now, it's good old-fashioned cruise control, which, let's be honest, is still a fantastic feature to have on a touring machine like this. Okay, so no robot riders. But the tech on this bike is still pretty impressive. Seeing as this is such a forward-thinking model, what other innovations do you think we might see from Moto Guzzi in the future? Or even, do you think other manufacturers might start incorporating features like adaptive aerodynamics into their designs?
It's certainly possible. I think the V100 Mandello signals that the industry is ready for more advanced tech. Adaptive aerodynamics seems like a natural progression, particularly for sport touring bikes. And as the technology develops and becomes more refined, I wouldn't be surprised to see it trickle down to other categories of motorcycle.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the possibilities. But let's shift gears for a second and think about a question a newer rider might have. Would you recommend the V100 Mandello for someone just starting out in the world of motorcycles? That's an interesting question, honestly. I'd probably suggest something a bit more manageable. For a brand new rider, the V100 Mandello is a powerful machine with a lot of advanced features. It could feel a bit overwhelming for someone who's still getting comfortable with the fundamentals of riding.
So it's more of a seasoned rider's bike then, something for those who already have some experience under their belts and can really appreciate what this bike has to offer.
I think that's a fair assessment. You really need to understand the nuances of motorcycle handling and performance to get the most out of a bike like this.
That makes sense. Now I want to go back to the tech for a moment. Specifically those adaptive aerodynamics. It still feels a bit like magic to me. Can you break down exactly how that system actually works?
It is pretty ingenious. Basically, the bike has a network of sensors that are constantly monitoring things like speed, lean angle, and even acceleration. They feed that data into the bike's brain, which then determines the optimal position for the winglets. So as you accelerate, those winglets adjust, generating downforce and smoothing out the airflow. It's all happening in real time, responding to your every input.
Wow. So the bike is constantly adapting, optimizing itself for maximum performance and rider comfort. It's really like something out of the future.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it demonstrates how technology can be harnessed to enhance the riding experience, ways we might not have even imagined before.
Okay. I've got one more question from the FAQs that I think a lot of folks are probably wondering about, and it's a purely aesthetic one. What color options are available for the V100 Mandello?
The information you provided mentions red, green, and gray as the available colors.
I've got to say, from the pictures, they all look fantastic. It's hard to choose a favorite. That green is really striking, though, like you said earlier.
I agree. They've done a great job with the color palette, offering choices that complement the bike's design and appeal to a variety of tastes. It's clear they put a lot of thought into those details.
All right, we've discussed the V100 Mandello's innovative features, its performance potential, its design, and its pros and cons. But I think it's time to zoom out and consider the bigger picture. What does this bike say about the future of motorcycling?
That's a fascinating question. I think the V100 Mandello embodies a trend we're seeing across the motorcycle industry, a real embrace of technology. We're witnessing more and more bikes equipped with features like adaptive aerodynamics, sophisticated suspension systems, and advanced rider aids. And I think this is a positive development as it makes bikes safer, more comfortable,
Yeah.
and more enjoyable to ride.
It's interesting because in some ways, it seems like the line between motorcycles and cars is starting to blur a little. We're seeing similar technologies being incorporated into both.
You're right. And I think this cross-pollination of ideas can only be a good thing. It means that riders are getting the benefit of cutting-edge advancements that were once only found in high-end cars.
But even with all this tech, there's still something so unique and visceral about riding a motorcycle. It's an experience you just can't replicate in a car.
Absolutely. There's a sense of freedom, a connection to the road, a wind in your hair. That's purely motorcycle. And I don't think that will ever fade away, no matter how advanced the technology becomes.
Yeah, I hope not. But I am genuinely curious to see how technology continues to shape the future of motorcycling. Will we see even more integration of things, like artificial intelligence or autonomous driving features?
It's definitely within the realm of possibility. We're already seeing some motorcycles with self-balancing systems and other features that hint at what might be coming down the road. It's a brave new world out there on two wheels.
It really is. But in the midst of all these advancements, it's important to remember that at its core, motorcycling is about passion, adventure, and the sheer joy of riding.
Well said. It's about the feeling of the open road, the camaraderie of fellow riders, and the thrill of experiencing the world from a different perspective.
Now, before we head into our final lap, I want to circle back to a topic we touched on earlier, the question of value.
Ah, yes. The eternal dilemma for any motorcycle enthusiast. Is the price tag worth it?
Exactly. The V100 Mandello is a premium motorcycle with a price to match. So, in your opinion, is it worth it?
That's a subjective question, and ultimately the answer depends on individual needs, priorities, and budget. However, I do think that the V100 Mandello offers a lot for its price. You're getting cutting-edge technology, sophisticated design, impressive performance, and a level of comfort ideal for long-distance touring.
And let's not forget that it's a Moto Guzzi. There's a certain cachet that comes with owning a brand, with such a rich history and heritage.
Definitely. Moto Guzzi has a devoted following, and for good reason. They produce motorcycles that are distinctive, stylish, and a joy to ride. The V100 Mandello embodies that spirit perfectly.
All right. As we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a question to ponder. We've talked about the impressive performance capabilities of this bike, but what about real-world practicality?
That's a crucial consideration. For any motorcycle purchase, a bike can have all the bells and whistles and be capable of hitting incredible speeds, but if it's not comfortable or convenient to ride on a daily basis, then it's not going to be a fulfilling ownership experience.
You're absolutely right. So as you continue exploring the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello, consider how it would fit into your life. Would it be a suitable commuter bike? How comfortable would it be for two-up riding? Would it be practical for running errands or taking shorter trips?
These are all important factors to think about. The best motorcycle for you is the one that best aligns with your lifestyle and riding preferences.
We'll be back in a flash with our final thoughts on the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. Stick around.
And we're back for the final stretch of our deep dive into the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. It's been quite a journey, exploring this blend of classic Italian style and cutting-edge technology. It really has. This bike has sparked some great conversation about where the motorcycle industry is heading and what riders are looking for in a modern machine.
Yeah, right. So let's recap some key takeaways for you before we wrap up. The Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello is clearly targeted towards riders who value long-distance comfort and performance, those who aren't afraid to embrace innovation.
It's a statement piece from Moto Guzzi, a showcase of what they're capable of. And it's pushing the boundaries of what a touring motorcycle can be.
We talked about those groundbreaking adaptive aerodynamics, that incredibly smooth semi-active suspension, and that powerful engine. This bike is packed with features designed to enhance both comfort and performance, especially on those long hauls.
And let's not forget that undeniable Italian styling. The V100 Mandello turns heads wherever it goes. It is a real presence on the road.
But we also discussed some important considerations, like the premium price tag and the potential challenges of a limited dealer network. These are factors any potential buyer needs to weigh carefully.
Right. It's about finding the right balance between desire and practicality.
So here's a final thought for you to ponder. As you continue your motorcycle journey, would you be willing to pay a premium for those innovative features, especially considering the potential challenges of a limited dealer network?
It's a question only you can answer, but it speaks volumes about Moto Guzzi's vision, that they've created a bike that prompts such thoughtful consideration.
Well said. And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. We hope this has given you a deeper understanding of this unique machine and what makes it so special.
It's been a pleasure exploring this bike with you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. And to you, our listener, keep those engines revving and those helmets strapped on. The open road awaits.